The Sermon at Benaras. Introduction. This chapter highlights first sermon of Lord Gautam Buddha in the city of Benaras, where he emphasizes that one has to understand that death is the inevitable truth of the mortal life. Gautam Buddha was born into a noble family in Lumbini and was called Prince Siddhartha. At the age of 12, he was sent for schooling in an ashram to learn Vedic scriptures. After 4 years, when he returned to his kingdom, he got married to a princess and had a son. He lived a royal life full of luxuries. Once, at the age of 25, when he went out for hunting, on the way he encountered with the sufferings of the world. In the form of sickness, old age, death, and a monk begging for alms. On seeing the glimpse of the sufferings of mortal life, he renounced his kingdom, family, and worldly possessions and went in search of enlightenment. Buddha started living a life of ascetic. He wandered for 7 long years in search of enlightenment, and one day he sat down under the peepal tree and vowed to stay there until he got enlightened. In the span of 7 days, he got enlightened and went around the world teaching the worldly wisdom. With the passage of time, he was known as the Buddha, the awakened or the enlightened. Gautama Buddha preached his first sermon in the city of Benaras at the banks of Ganga. Once, a woman named Kisa Gotami's only son died. She couldn't accept this truth and became desperate to revive her son. In her grief, she went from one house to another in the village asking for medicine which could make her son alive, but no one was able to help her. On the way, she came across a Buddhist who advised her to go to Gautam Buddha as he was the only one who could help her. Listening to him, she went straight away to Buddha carrying her dead son in her arms. On reaching there, she told her story and made an emotional appeal to Gautam Buddha to give her some medicines which will help to revive her son back to life. Gautam Buddha understood her grief and calmly told her that her son would be alive if she is able to procure a handful of mustard seeds from the house where death has not taken away any of their loved ones. Filled with hope and assurance, she went from one house to another asking for handful of mustard seeds. Out of pity, everyone offered her the seeds, but when she asked if they have experienced the death in their family of near and dear ones? To her disbelief, not a single house was there in the village that hasn't experienced the death in their family. By the end of the evening, she became hopeless and tired and sat down at the wayside, seeing the lights of the city. She observed that the lights flickered up and extinguished again, and at last there was rain of darkness everywhere. She acknowledged that these lights were the symbolic representation of birth and death. She understood the inscrutable meaning of mortal life which Gautam Buddha wanted her to understand. Lord Buddha, in his preaching, said that the mortal who is born has to go through the sufferings of the life, and death comes to all because it is an inevitable truth and one cannot avoid it. It doesn't make any difference whether the person is young, old, poor, rich, wise, or fool. They are all subjected to death. Knowing the ultimate truth of the life, there is no need to grieve on it as it is the part of the life only. No one can attain peace of mind by lamenting on the death of their dear ones because it won't revive them. Instead, it would increase their own sufferings and pain. It would harm them only, eventually making them sick and pale. Therefore, one has to come out of their sorrows and understand the truth of the mortal life if they want their life to be blessed. In the end, we can say that Gautam Buddha wanted to teach that death and sufferings are the part of life. Whoever has come to the world will die one day. In the hour of grief, one must remain calm and composed so that grief doesn't overcome one. Moral: anything which is mortal is bound to perish.